You are now listening to Bull Hook Golf, an unfiltered golf podcast taking you inside the ropes with unfiltered stories, insights, analysis, and exclusive interviews. Welcome back, everybody, to Bull Hook Golf, the podcast. This is episode number 66, and this is a very special week as the U.S. Open is back. Not only is it back, but it is in Los Angeles. The place where people's dreams go to live?
Shit.
I don't know. I've lived in LA for a year, so we'll get into that. We'll talk about the U.S. Open this week at LA Country Club, one of the most esteemed country clubs in the country, one of the most expensive properties, we could say. And before we do that, though, we'll touch upon the RBC Canadian Open, as that was a fantastic tournament. We got to recap that one. And then obviously the topic of the century right now, which is the partnership / merger / whatever it is that people want to call it at this point, between the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, PIF, which is the owner of LIV Golf. And we're going to talk about what we know to date, as well as some further speculation around that. So hang tight till the end, because that's going to be a little treat, I would say. So, Bobby, let's start off with the Canadian Open, the RBC Canadian Open.
Canadian Open. You remember how I was telling you in past episodes that when you go do a Canadian Open, that it feels like this week would be in the United States U.S. Open? Well, it certainly looked like that, because they take great pride in their golfers, and they have. I was thinking about this watching the tournament. I mean, other than the United States, what country has the most powerful golfers? What country has the second best set of golfers? Would it be Canada? Would it be South Korea?
I would probably go South Korea, right?
You would say so. You would go Sungjae, Siwoo, KH Lee.
I mean, the UK is pretty strong right now too.
Yeah, the UK's
Justin Rose. You got Tyrrell Hatton.
Yeah, but I guess my point was just how many really good Canadian golfers are that you don't really think about. But
there's a lot right now.
Yeah, there's a lot. Sure is a lot. But that just leads me right into the intro that for Canada, you couldn't have scripted a better ending to what just happened at 17 under par. Nick Taylor and Tommy Fleetwood getting into a playoff. And Nick Taylor, I'm going to say this is his third or fourth win. He's a proven winner. He's not that name that is always there every single week, but when he does have a chance to win, he seems to get it done. And that's a pretty good quality for a professional golfer, I'll tell you that. And he couldn't have picked a better week to get. I don't even want to say he got red hot. He just played fantastic all week long on a golf course that, my guys were telling me early in the week, obviously I wasn't there, but I was talking to my guy via text all week, and he was telling me how hard it was, and was a little surprised that 17 under won it. We thought it was going to be in the 12 to 14 range, somewhere around there. But man, what a playoff. I mean, it was like never ending. I thought that thing was going to go on and on and on. And to bury an eagle putt like that from 70 some feet with the crowd going crazy and the pressure he must have had on his back representing his home country. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, because you're better than me, but I believe it was 69 years or 60 some years since a Canadian has won
since 1954, Bob.
Championship 54.
I'm not good at math.
Years. I am, though.
I know.
9 years.
You should have that.
You just throw the numbers out, and I do it real quick in my head, like we're walking down the fairway, and then I say 69, and you look at me, and I go, it's just a controlled lob wedge, Matt. And you go, wow, that's a really controlled lob wedge. So, anyways, big, massive playoff. Nick Taylor gets it done in dramatic fashion over Tommy Fleetwood. I really thought Tommy Fleetwood was going to get it done. We've been talking about him making some pit stops, some oil changes into C Butch. And we noticed, a couple months ago, you and I, that he was getting on form, and it looks like it's coming to peak now. Maybe it's coming to peak this week in the U.S. Open, but that's a little different animal. But it just couldn't be any better for Canada, especially because this is 2 years in a row where the Canada has had to take a backseat to all the bullshit with LIV, and with LIV just starting at this time last year, so nobody was really paying attention to the Canadian Open, even though it did have Rory and it did have Justin Thomas and it had a marquee field last year. And then with this whole God, I'm on the inside. You read a lot. We don't even know. Nobody knows what to call it, a merger, an investment, whatever it is. And it took a backseat again, but at least that finish, raise some eyebrows to some people that golf is good on the PGA Tour. So 17 under for those guys. We had a few guys get beat a shot, just missed the playoff. Terrell Hatton posted early, kind of like Scotty Scheffler did at Memorial. Remember where you had to wait around at 16 under with Aaron Rye. CT Pan was in there. I'm bringing up CT Pan's name because he won Hilton Head some years ago, and he was a stud at the University of Washington. He's from Chinese Taipei. I don't even know where that is, but I'm sure it's close to China somewhere. I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that. So he had a major wrist injury that put him down for about 5 or 6 months. And if you remember back to his first tournament back in Dallas, he was very close to the lead. And he was if I'm not mistaken, Matt, he was leading by 2 or 3 shots swinging into Sunday, didn't get off to a great start, ends up getting beat a shot. But that's a player I guess we need to watch in the future towards the playoffs. He's obviously on form. Justin Rose had another great week, 13 under.
Hang on, going back to CT Pan real quick. Did you hear what his physical therapist told him?
Don't hit it in the rough?
Yeah. That's what they told him.
Those physical therapists have been known to get 3% of their players' earnings, so that's great advice. But I do know CT Pan's history with paying and that kind of stuff, and I'm not classifying him as Asian, even though Chinese Taipei is, and I don't think that trainer's getting 3%. But that was great advice. I try and give that advice to my players every single week for the last 17 years.
Yeah, just don't hit it in the rough. It's a lot easier out of the short grass.
I guess they paid attention the first 3 days because he had a 3-shot lead.
Well, and talking about rough, I mean, and rolling back the golf ball.
Yeah.
All you need to do is grow out the rough. It's been proven over these past couple weeks. The Memorial, then you've got this golf course up in Canada that, oh gosh, I forget. Help me with the name. It's the Oakdale Country Club, isn't it, or something along those lines up there?
Is that the one they played last year, or is that the one that we played so many years?
I can't remember. Yeah. I'm blanking on the name of the golf course right now, but they grew out the rough to a decent size, and you saw that it really eliminated a lot of the field that was playing in the event. And I agree with you, though. The numbers were shocking in terms of how low they went out there. It seemed like it was going to be closer to single digits.
It did. It did. And I was anticipating this. But I will tell you from a guy that's done about a dozen of these Canadian Opens, anywhere from Shaughnessy in Vancouver, which could hold a U.S. Open, to Hamilton, to all the other courses that we played. That Canada has some fantastic golf courses. I mean, they're unbelievable. They're a little bit old school. They love to grow the rough up there. The greens are always in great shape. You have to be a shot maker and a striker of the golf ball to win. And anytime you look back at the history of who's won a Canadian Open, Johnny Vegas, Jason Day, Dustin Johnson, you can go down the list. Rory's won a couple. I mean, it's a who's who of world-class players. Speaking of Rory, didn't have a great Sunday, T9, but kind of trending towards this week, I guess. 12 under. He hit a couple wedges close. I know he's struggling with his wedge game, but he's been known to rise up for these big events. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the mix. I mean, that's kind of stating the obvious. You know what was interesting about
real analysis there, Bobby?
My expert. Rory McIlroy is a good golfer. Who didn't know? I'll tell you what was interesting about this week, and I'm gonna combine this kind of a little bit with the RBC Canadian Open and the Corn Ferry Tour event. So this was the first week that most of those top 20 college university guys turned pro, right? All the seniors turned pro. And if you don't think these guys aren't immediately ready now coming out of college, all you had to do was notice that Sam Bennett, who finished tied for 20th in Canada, the one that everybody's been dying to watch play, Ludvig Åberg from Sweden, from Sweden.
Solid player.
Yeah. Well, I think he's, agents will tell you he's a generational talent. When you look at him on paper in his college career in the last couple of years, you would classify him as a generational talent. So one finished 20th, one finished 25th. My guy SH Kim finished 25th. He was right in the mix for the first 2 days. Didn't do much on the weekend. I was texting him every single night. I was texting him. I was talking to the caddy too, and he was very disciplined and he was very conservative, as I said he was at Memorial, just putting the ball in play there. It didn't look like there was a lot of drivers at that golf course. So we were pretty happy to have SH have a nice little top 25 and move back in that. Even though the magic number is 50 60 for this year. 70 is really a magic number too, right? Because you don't have to play the fall and your number is solidified for next season. So that is a good thing. And I'll tell you something else about these university top 20 guys. The other generational talent that they talk about, they're coming out this year. I think he finished number 2 on the list, and I'm probably not going to pronounce his name right, but he's a Frenchie. And the European guys have been telling me a couple years about this Frenchie. And his name is Adrien. He plays at Illinois, Adrien Dumont de Chastard. I'm going to say that's what his name is. So he was an All-American at Illinois, and sure as shit, if he didn't win his first start a la Rosang on the Korn Ferry Tour in a playoff at 21 under, close to my house, not really close, Greenville, South Carolina. It's the BMW Pro-Am, which is the AT&T style Pro-Am. He wins in a playoff. First start, he was a university ranking number 3 or number 4. The kid we were talking about at Greyhawk that won, Fred Biondi, was leading early in the week. He ended up finishing 33rd. You've heard me rave about this young guy that I like from Southern California so much, from Pepperdine, named William Mao. He made the cut. He finished 43rd. So I'm going to believe 9 or 10 of these guys made their first starts this year. About half of them, 5 or 6 made the cut. So, excuse me. My point is these guys are ready to play, right? They are ready to go right out of college. There's not a lot of seasoning. There's always the guys that need some seasoning a year or two on the Korn Ferry Tour. So that's just a little something that I'm going to throw out there. We hadn't talked much about the Korn Ferry Tour in the past. And
we haven't. That was a good call.
I just wanted to remind everybody that this is the time of year where, you know, things are looking like who's going to get the 30 cards and that kind of stuff. My son's player took the week off. 8 weeks in a row, wasn't playing good. Just was a well-deserved rest. Decided to take the week off. But the twin brother, we talk about too, Parker Cootie, had another great finish. Finished tied for 13th. And you know, I've raved numerous times, and I'm going to make this quote again. The greatest package I've ever seen or caddied for, next to Dustin Johnson, that nobody has heard about, in quotation marks, my guy Carter Jenkins from North Carolina had a nice 7th place finish that moved him to 28. So that's a little catch up Korn Ferry Tour rundown.
I love that impromptu little Korn Ferry Tour breakdown by you, Bobby. You're our Korn Ferry.
I was going to do the G Pro Mini Tour and the Epson Tour, but there's some bitch in Scottsdale on the Epson Tour that I don't like. Do you know this chick named Hannah Gregg? Now's my chance to trash her. I'm going to hold my language this one, because YouTube, Matt and Leighton, YouTube doesn't like my potty mouth anymore, and they're cutting down our views, and maybe because they're paying us 3 cents an episode charge now.
I think that's what it is.
Son of a beep. I'm learning. So, Clint, can I go on this little Hannah Gregg rant? You know,
I don't know who she is.
Okay, exactly. That's my point. But I picked her up on social media, and she is one of these. Oh my God, my temperature's going up because I never met her and I don't even like her, but I'm going to start shelling her. Do you ever meet those kind of people that like might have conditional? So the Epson Tour, I guess, is the next step to getting onto the LPGA Tour, right? So I picked up this chick on, you know, talking about how great she is, and she's giving lessons on how to take divots on the range, and she's a social media star that happened to get through second stage of Q School. A bad number, and has.
Well, that's better than most of those Instagram influencers.
Yeah, well, actually, she can play a little bit, but I just don't. I had this pet peeve about. I can't say women, about people in general who shit or get off the pot. Are you a social media influencer, or are you a professional golfer? Which one is it? And I'll give you an example.
For me, neither, Bobby.
I'll give you an example of what turned me off about her. You know, TaylorMade has the Kingdom that you can go, that the marquee players or college players or professional players will go test new equipment and some putters, or it usually happens when we're at Torrey Pines. Guys will go into the Kingdom and test out some new equipment and get some feedback. So when you walk into the Kingdom, there is like a mock locker room there with a Rory McIlroy bag, a Tiger Woods bag, a Dustin Johnson bag. It goes down the road like a real locker room, right? Yeah. It's not their real clubs, right? It's all made up sets, copies of what they might have had in the bag at the start of the year. So this BITCH, you're welcome, YouTube. So this BITCH goes in there, and I see this video, and she's like, oh my God, I am actually they're going to let me hit Tiger Woods wedges, right? So she's out there filming this thing, and she's like, I am actually hitting, and I'm reading all the comments, and I'm like, oh my God, these people actually think that these are Tiger Woods regular wedges that she's going on and on and on about. And I don't know why I had to get this out of my system, because she blocked me last week. So now I'm trying to get even with her. She goes by the screen name on Twitter as Hana BGGGG or something like that. So everybody check it out. Apparently she's got a massive contract, according to her, from Dunning. What's this new company called Golf Tech, by the way? Have you heard of this Golf Tech? You know anything about Golf Tech?
They've been around for a long time. They're your neighborhood technology golf lesson.
Is
where
this
they
a different
strap
way
you
of
up
saying
with a
Nevada?
K-vest and
Is this a different way of saying Nevada Bobs?
no, they just
okay.
mainly do golf lessons, but they have like
golf indoor golf lessons. Fabulous.
Yeah, indoor golf lessons. Hey, don't trash that. That's what I used to do in New York City. But no, with Golf Tech, they've got their own little system that they've created. So there's specific numbers. I actually was working for a biomechanics company for a little bit. And one of the guys that I was working with, he was a former Golf Tech golf instructor. And he was trying to educate me around, the set parameters that they look for, whether it's shoulder rotation, horizontal movement of the hips, all of those little biometric pieces of information. They strap everybody up in their biomechanic stuff, which is basically a K-vest and a couple other sensors. And then, they give golf lessons. They're kind of in most of the major metro cities throughout America.
Gotcha. So let me just summarize this about Hannah BGGGGBITCH. She claims to be a really great professional golfer, but I've been tracking her and her scores on the Epson Tour, because she likes to say, "Oh, I'm on the road to the Epson Tour. Look at Player Dining." She snaps these little pictures and everything like that. And I think to myself, my God, I don't know any world-class, really good player that goes through Player Dining and goes, "Oh my God, look at the ding dongs and the Twinkies. And oh, they have spicy Doritos. That's fantastic. Everything you could need." So anyways, Hannah, I want you to know I've been tracking your scores, and ever since the Parker Open, I got you at 43 over par. That's real Siwon Kim stuff, and you ain't getting paid for it. Bobby B out.
Damn, Bobby.
I haven't had any hate on here ever since his wife haven't been around.
Listen, I was caught off guard with that one, but I applaud it. Well done there, Bobby. Well done. I'm going to have to look into this Hannah B. Greg, somebody.
She's very sensitive. She will block you fast, so be careful what you say.
I'll be careful. Also, we just gave Golf Tech a little bit of a promo on this episode. Well, the one question I have for you, and this goes back to the RBC Canadian Open.
Sure.
Tommy Fleetwood never won on the PGA Tour. Is he ever going to win on the PGA Tour?
Man, I would say if we had this podcast and when we have this podcast in 5 and 7 years, and Tommy Fleetwood is no longer playing golf over here, if we would have said Tommy Fleetwood never won on the PGA Tour, would I be surprised? And I would say yes, I'd be surprised. So I do think he's going to win. And I do think that instructor that we like so much in Las Vegas, we'll call him the Good Harmon. The Good Harmon gets his horses to run really, really fast at certain times. And you can
he's only been with him for 5 months.
I mean, he's trending, right? And he's trending. And it's not like he's going to see, and I've said this about Butchie before, it's not like he's going for these major overhauls. It's just, maybe you're getting a little too close, or maybe this, or maybe that. It's always something simple. And the John Gruden factor, I call it, that Butchie has a gift with of motivating guys and kicking them in the behind. And I think
good old booty.
Yeah, the booty. So I do think he will. I do think he will catch a W out here. I don't know what kind of situation it'll be or anything like that, but I don't know if you can really put him in the obvious list of guys to beat out here. But I mean, I certainly think he's a top 20 guy. If you ranked him how many guys in here? 156. If you ranked him 1 to 156, you'd be foolish not to put him in the top 20. I know there's 8 to 12 obvious.
I'd put him in there for ball striking. I don't know if I'd put him in there for everything else.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to take, because we're doing this on a Tuesday night, right? So I've been talking to caddies about conditions, and I get mixed reports from other caddies. Some caddies are, it's awesome. Yeah,
let me not rub it in right now, Bobby, that you are not in LA at LA Country Club.
No,
for
but it was
this week's US Open.
But it was my 6-year-old's birthday today.
And happy birthday.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. And then it was my 10-year-old. It was Riker's birthday on Friday. So it's amazing that I'm actually standing up right now because we had.
Are you standing or are you sitting?
Now I'm standing. I'm sitting. I'm sitting. They're still awake upstairs on the Nintendo Switches. I said nobody comes down for 1 hour, so let's see if they can. I didn't Mickey him with the baby melatonin, so this is a big gamble tonight. So maybe they'll make a guest appearance that you might have to edit. Maybe
you
not.
Never know.
So, anyways, I had 2 double birthday parties on Saturday. My 6-year-old went to this place called Charleston Fun Park, and it was. It's like Goonie golf. It's like, miniature golf and game room. And we had the big party and that kind of stuff. And it was awesome because I got to take like 12 kids out there with their parents and, give them, just watch them hit some putts and that kind of stuff. First of all, I was super impressed with my 10-year-old because you used to be a kamikaze pilot putting at these things and just rifling everything 100 miles an hour. And then he would never listen to anything I had to say about his feet or his grip or anything like that. And then all of a sudden he's out there hitting putts and I'm like, oh my God, this is so smooth. And I'm like, oh, you decided to listen to me finally, huh? After he made a 1. He goes, Dad, I actually learned this all on TV, not from you. So he's been watching some golf, and my 6-year-old's is starting to pick up on it too. You saw that little video I put on Instagram some months ago, almost a year ago, where he's got that little pause and that little rhythm. So, anyways, double birthday parties, relatives in town, the official birthday today. Soccer camps from 9 in the morning until 1 p.m. I'm getting off the track. Tennis camp last week. And we had the U.S. Junior Amateur USGA event coming here the 3rd week of July. And I've done some caddying out there and some money games, we'll call it, for some pretty good players. And I've linked up. I just thought it's kind of a ritzy club for here, Daniel. And like it's like there's some money here, right? Other than my family. And I thought it was just so private that you couldn't take like guys can give lessons to kids that weren't members. And I found out one of the guys called me from the shop today and he's like, oh, hey, I heard we're looking for somebody to give your kids lessons. So I think my kids are getting the golf bug, and I'm pretty stoked about that. Wow, I went into my whole personal life for a week off because I don't like watching majors on the couch. But this one I'm going to enjoy watching because I'm like everybody else. I want to see what this golf course is all about, Matt. I heard Rory say today that the winning score yesterday. I heard somebody say that the winning score could be double digits, and then I heard Rory say today that he thought it could be as +4 to -4. So,
well, I definitely was paying attention yesterday. Certainly a lot greener than it was today. So today, things have started to become golden. Yeah, it's starting to dry out. They're starting to give the guys what the conditions are actually going to be. And that's where Rory was saying, this could be +4, it could be -4. But everybody kind of knows that as it gets faster and firmer, this thing is going to be an absolute beast. And I do have to say, is the flyovers and everything that I've been watching of each and every hole, it does give you some feels of like Shinnecock a little bit. It gives you some Wingfoot. It gives you some Oakmont. Like it's got these different aspects to it that is really cool to see.
And what do all those have in common, Matt? They're all U.S. Open tracks. Exactly. I heard Rory say today that he thought it was a mix of Shinnecock, Seminole, and the Sandbelt in Australia.
Oh, Seminole's a good one. Yeah, I can see that.
And I can see the Sandbelt in Australia the couple times that I've been over there for a couple World Cups for those golf courses. I can see that in there too. I hope I'm not jumping a topic, but what's unusual, because I'm trying to think, I've done 16 or 17 US Opens. I don't ever remember one with Bermuda.
No,
I don't ever remember one with Bermuda.
That's what's so shocking here.
And it's not just that, it's Bermuda in Southern California, which is so strange, the Poe capital of the world, right? And did you notice that the rough around the greens is that gnarly, big, thick fescue, and it looks anywhere from 4 to 7 inches in certain spots. I will tell you that some of the caddies that I had talked to, I'm like, what's your take on the course? And they're like, hard, the same old typical US Open, hard as shit. It's going to firm up. Obviously, they've had a big marine. You can get a big marine layer in there, so close, that close to the ocean, keeping everything green. But like you said today, you were watching and you saw it starting to turn. And by Sunday, I think it's possible that all hell could break loose. But a couple of these caddies that I talked to said that There's some funky holes out there, and they added tees, and the USGA likes to go in and add tees and get away from the original design and or bring back the original design that was first thought of how many years ago. But let's just talk about these par threes, man. 290 yards,
5 of them.
284 yards. I mean, that is ridiculous. I was watching videos today, JT Poston and some other guys hitting 3-woods into par threes on greens that looked very severely sloped, and then didn't look like there was a lot of miss area. And then you have, what's the famous par three? I want to say, is it 12 or 15? I want to say it's 15 that can play as short as 80.
78 yards.
78 yards. And I was watching my buddy John Wood, who used to caddy, who is kind of the TV personality. He's been doing this thing all week on today at the US Open, where he's going over certain holes and strategy. And he's really been focusing on this hole, talking about how certain players are like, from 90 yards are thinking about playing short of the green, which I was actually laughing at, because they can say that. And I think he was quoting Ricky Fowler, to be quite honest. I'll just get it over with, saying that he was just going to try and land one like 5 short and get it up and down. And I'm like, what tour pro from 86 to 96 yards? What Matt Cook player in the world from 86 to 96 yards? What Bobby Brown player in the world from 86 to 96 yards is not seeing nothing but flagstick or maybe 5 or 6 feet left? There's also another intriguing hole out there. Number 6 is blind drivable hole that I saw John do this big walkthrough on, that's completely blind. You can't see anything. You got to hammer something over the trees, and guys are taking time to figure out their strategy. Obviously, pin positions in these things and wind conditions dictate if you're going to lay up or where you stand in the tournament. Do you need to make a move? Are you off the cut line? Do you have a chance to win, but you're 5 back? So we're doing this a day early. I guess my point is I get a little bit more scouting report, because as the week goes on in these practice rounds, I've noticed that, you get more game time decisions come Wednesday. You will get a lot of play out there, but not a lot of guys are going to do 18 holes tomorrow. Most of the guys that didn't play in Canada were there on Saturday, getting some strategy. I hear these caddies are working very, very much overtime, so to speak. I don't know if there is who's got the local knowledge there? Does anybody have local knowledge? I know that Collin Morikawa has played there a lot, but let's just not say that it's his home course, right? He's not a member of LA North, that's for sure. So,
but who does have experience out there? Because the shot track era has not existed in any tournament that's ever been played there. Okay, so nobody knows how people play it.
Okay, so it's been changed, but really, if you went back to experience there, obviously Max Homa shot 61 there in a Pac-12 Pac-12s or something like that. But you can throw that out the window. That was so long ago.
That's not happening.
Different conditions. It was different conditions. It's not this week. But if you went to who knows the golf course, you would really probably have to go back to that powerhouse Walker Cup team in 2017. And I'm going to say Scotty Scheffler, Collin Morikawa. I think Justin Suh was on that team too. So there are a few guys, obviously Will Zalatoris is not here this week due to injury, but he, I would say those guys could be fractionally more comfortable than everybody else.
I think so, because nobody else has seen this course.
But you want to know the difference between great US Open players and regular US Open players, regular US Open players / caddies, because I was involved in this in my early years of doing US Opens. When you look at these hard US Open golf courses, you think, man, this is hard. You think about every single hole, like, gosh, this is such a hard hole. What do we do? Where do we miss? And that kind of stuff. The great elite ones don't think that. The Brooks Koepkas or the John Rahms or the Dustin Johnsons, they don't really think that, right? They're just going out and playing a golf course, and they're making a strategy, and they're sticking to their strategy, and they're mentally staying in the game. I don't know if that made any sense to anybody, but you can spend all your time out there and waste so much energy. And I heard Paul McGinley talk about it, I want to say a couple of days ago, that the reason why he never played good in the US Open, because he was more worried about where he was going to miss and how he was not going to make a double bogey or a triple bogey, instead of focusing on the task at hand of parring this thing to death and mentally outstrengthening everybody else. So it'll be interesting to see. So there's no home course knowledge. Maybe those 3 guys that I named are a little bit more comfortable on where to hit it, but you just got to think a Walker Cup is not even close to the same conditions as, a let's say,
no
obviously
chance.
U.S. Open, because Walker Cups, I think, depending on what country you're in, whether it's in Europe for the year or the United States for the next year, they do that Ryder Cup strategy where they manicure and they make the golf course and they set the golf course up to fit bomber Americans, right? And then when you go over to Europe for a Ryder Cup, they grow the rough up and they bring everything in and they kind of try to anti-American it. So this is going to be a good one, Matt. This is going to be a really good one, and I really can't get ready. I can't wait for it to start. And I'm so bummed that I'm on the East Coast because it doesn't come on until 9:30 a.m. on Thursday. So
I'm bummed for you too. I'm going to be in LA this week, so I'm actually looking forward to being around the environment. I'm not going to be inside the ropes, folks. So don't get excited that I'm going to be able to give you any type of inside scoop there, because that's Bobby's job. And Bobby was slacking this week. Okay, Bobby decided his guy was not going to be in the U.S. Open. No, it wasn't Bobby's decision.
he missed it. For anybody that doesn't know, he missed qualifying by a shot in Dallas, and he triple bogey. He went out of bounds first swing of the day, made a triple bogey, rallied back to only miss by a shot. But
you hate to see it.
My guy's going to play in plenty of U.S. Open, So
for sure, your kid is a gosh darn stick.
Yeah,
I mean, watching him play at the RBC Canadian Open, and by the way, I know this is going to jump around for a second, but I just have to say, thank God Adam Hadwin is okay, because he took the shot of a century. I mean, how great was that form? Did you see some of the slow-mo of him coming around Nick Taylor with the left arm? He moved Nick Taylor out of the way and just gets his head to the side. I mean, it was form tackling at its finest.
You know what I got the biggest kick out of is Nick's caddy is a guy named Dave Markle from Canada, and he was a really good player. I want to say he played in qualified for a couple Canadian Opens. You know, Team Canada gives 12 to 15 spots to their Canadian players, whether they're amateurs or professional. So he had played in this once or twice. But if you watch the slow motion when he was hugging Nick and he saw what was happening to Adam, did you notice that? If you go back and watch it, how he runs over and he tries to get involved with the linebacker that took out.
Well, Adam, here's the thing, buddy. I think it's because of all the scruff on your face, man. You look a little homeless. That he just came in for the kill because he thought you were just a random dude. I think it might be time to shave up the beard. I don't know if your wife, who's all over Twitter, feels the same way, but man, she's funny. She gives him hell on Twitter and social media. That's pretty fantastic.
You know, me and him laugh because I'm super OCD anal. So one of my OCD things is loading the dishwasher. Everything has to be perfectly in its spot. You can't have pasta still on the plates or anything like that. The cups go here and that. And so Adam, did you see that last year where Adam put up the picture of the way she loaded the dishwasher and he was just losing his mind? And me and him talk about that every single day. So she's a good follow, Jessica. She's a really good follow. You know, she's not your prototypical Lululemon wearing, Gucci purse daunting, whatever the word is I'm looking for. She just kind of goes out there and watches them play, and they have a little one at home. But she's very witty, isn't she? She's a couple of these, I'm going to call them normal tour wives that are pretty witty and pretty entertaining. And quite honestly, Matt, pretty down to earth, right?
I mean, my favorite one was when she goes, "Everybody, please pray for Adam." And then she shared the story about how he said that a dress didn't look good on her, or something along those lines. Yeah. I mean, that's just that kind of humor, that dry humor is pretty fantastic to see coming from a tour wife, because sometimes it could be all about the plastic, all about the, what latest bag do you have? What car are you driving? What private jet are you taking? Who are you with? We know who those are that I'm talking about.
We said enough about them. We know who they are. Yeah. Hey, who won the penny bet last week, Matt? Who won the penny bet?
Shish kebabs, Bobby. Shish kebabs. So the shish kebab of Bob definitely took that one. I looked great on Thursday with Mackenzie Hughes, 3 under, and then he had a case of diarrhea, and he actually crapped himself 3 times while he was out there, and it was unfortunate. He had to throw away the underwear each time, and so he ended up shooting, I think, 8 over or something like that. Not good.
I had a U.S. Open last year's U.S.
You
Open.
had Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
Pure
Yeah.
class there.
Let me ask you a question.
You're down to 5,000 pennies. Though.
Okay, well, you didn't even let me ask the question that you usually get to ask me. Where do we stand, Matt? But we
do you
do
like it that when I lose, I know exactly where I stand. When I win, I have to ask you, Bobby, where are we at?
Yeah, well, you're just trying to get me in a lie. Is what you're trying to do. But this is a unique format because we can get back to where we don't have to have just one bet because you throttled me at the Masters with the amateur bet, right? So we got some really good amateurs playing this week. You know, there's probably 15, 20 of them in there, and there's 5 or 6 that are obviously going to be on tour here in the next year or two. So we'll add that to our penny bets when we get to our picks and that.
I'm glad that you're taking the executive decision there and throwing that out there. Not even asking if I want to accept it, but I will take it. I will take your amateur bet. I don't turn down bets, so I'm in.
We know the pecking order in this corporation: Matt Cook, Brad Friedman, Bobby Brown. That's for you, Brad.
If you flip that then you have the answer. It comes Bobby Brown, Brad Friedman, Matt Cook. I sit at the bottom of the food chain. I get the scraps. All right. So with that said, obviously Collin Morikawa from LA. Played there in college. You've got Max Homa, who played there in college. So those two, they've got a little bit of a history there. Scotty Scheffler played in the Walker Cup. He's another one.
Justin
Phil Mickelson, can he complete the career Grand Slam?
No.
Yeah,
I mean, the better question
is,
can he make the cut, right? Can he make the cut?
No.
Oh man, I was hoping we throw 1,000 penny bet on that, and you were going to take him, and I would say no.
I love Phil as a golfer, but man, I can't even take that one.
Yeah, I know you're going to stay away from that. I think you just look to the same guys with a handful of guys that whether you're a LIV player or whether you're a PGA Tour player.
I think I'm going to surprise you this week.
Well, okay, that's fine. I mean, there's 5 guys, but I do think. Man, if it wasn't Bermuda in that rough, I would angle towards a West Coast guy because I just feel like they're more comfortable, on those courses and those surroundings, temperatures, conditions, and that kind of stuff. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, where are we right now?
Who are you going with? Again? Yeah, let's do penny bets. This is our big penny bet moment of the century here because we're probably not going to get LA Country Club again for quite some time until the ladies in 2032.
Yeah, I'm super frazzled because I could go with like the heavy chalk, Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, and I could go all the way to. I know I love Justin Suh so much. I mean, I could go to him, but I'm gonna.
How about we do a top tier and then we do a second tier?
Yeah, well, you will. Okay. So let's talk about that. Let's do the top tier first. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the hot hand. I'm gonna go with Victor Hovland. That's my hot hand.
I love that.
You do? You like that pick? That is a good pick. Yeah, that's a good pick.
You actually just stole my pick.
Did I really? No,
you really did. That one. I mean, he's due. The kid, all he does is finish top 5 in majors. Yeah, he's playing phenomenally. Just won Memorial. The kid is just consistent.
Conditions, right? Yeah,
and he's good. I mean,
he's got to have a ton of confidence. Who are you going to pick?
I'm going to go Scotty Scheffler on that one. For my top tier.
You're unbelievable. New putter in the bag this week, I heard. Did you see that?
Well, he's been spending a lot of time with those Scotty Cameron reps.
Yep. Possible new putter in the bag. I'm gonna give you a couple our $2 better, a couple long shot picks. Kind of like Brian Harmon a little bit this week. I just feel like
is this our tier 2 bet?
Oh, oopsie.
Oh, we gotta go tier 2 bet.
Let's go tier 2.
Because I know I'll let you pick first once again.
No.
As the big winner last week of the Canadian Open.
There's 2 guys. Okay, listen, we got to stick to the rules. I pick the first one, you pick the second one. We go in order just like we do with the LIV.
I don't know if that's factual of the rules that we have followed for these penny bets. But you do want to change the rules. You want me to go first? Because at some point you want me to give you back Siwon Kim, and I'm never going to do it.
Well, we'll see about that. Okay, I'll go first. I'll take Justin Suh as my tier 2 guy. He's a tier 2 guy, right? Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I didn't really state like what is a tier 2 guy, but
me and tier 2 guys.
I am Well, this one might be some people might argue with me that this isn't a tier 2 guy, but to me, because he hasn't really broken through the way that the big top 10 guys do, I'm going to go with Max Homa this week.
Okay. He's
a tier 2 guy.
He's a tier 2. I mean, he's made one cut in the US Open. Yeah. I don't want to bring up that fact. I mean, he's from California. I really thought you were going to throw Justin Rose at me to tell you.
No, I wanted to go Collin Morikawa, to be honest.
But he's
tier 1. Exactly. Yeah, he is tier 1.
I don't think he's going to play that good this week. I don't know why. When I say that, he'll probably finish 15th or 16th or something like that. But I think
he's going to have a solid week.
Okay, I'll go with that. I like Brian Harman a little bit as a long shot.
I was shocked that you didn't go Brian Harman.
Well, I was going to. He's 5 for 5 in U.S. Opens. I think I was, of course, I was reading because I was trying to handicap this like the Derby. But he's 5 for 5 in U.S. Opens. He can run hot, but he can run hot in a positive way, and I can just see him, kind of dinking it around there and parring this thing to death, and hopefully with no major disasters. Gosh, we should even do we can't do a live guy. We can't do live guy bets. But
do you want to do a live guy bet on this?
No, I don't. God,
you pick your top live. My top live guy would not be Brooks Koepka. So if you want Brooks Koepka, I will take somebody else.
No, I'll trade you. I'll trade you this. Let's get rid of the live guy events. Let's get rid of the live guy topic, and let's move to the amateurs. Let's pick an amateur, like we always like picking an amateur. And
go over the amateurs that are in the field.
Okay, you ready? I'm going to throw some good ones at you. Okay, there's Michael Brennan, who won the ACCs. He's a stud at Wake Forest. There's Michael Thorpe Jorgensen, who plays at Stanford, who is going to be out on tour in a year or two. There's Preston Summerhays, who was just an All-American and kind of sealed that deal for ASU there when they advanced as far as they did advance in nationals. He eagled the last hole to get through his qualifier and then had to wait around, come back the next morning, I believe, to get through in a playoff. There's the guy that I love so much that got throttled by you, Gordon Sargent from Vandy, the big long knocker. There's also a young guy, a fifth-year senior. I want to say he was from Georgia Southern. His name is Ben Carr. That's who Sam Bennett beat at Ridgewood in the U.S. Amateur this year. And a little side note on Ben Carr, one of my good buddies, Willie Wilcox. Do you know Willie Wilcox? The name, he played on tour. So yeah, everybody knows Willie Wilcox's story. He's been struggling with, well, let's just say it. I mean, he came out big, he did a lot of drugs is what he did. And he drank a lot of alcohol, and he was a fantastic player. So Willie Wilcox is on Ben Carr's bag, as he was on Ben Carr's bag in the US AM. So that's a soft spot in my heart. So that's kind of your big 5 or 6 right there. That's your
Who do you want, Bobby?
Well, I think I am going to take this is a tough one. I want to take Gordon Sargent, but he hits it so far and so hard. I can see him accidentally popping one onto Wilshire Boulevard, or in the Hilton, or whatever's over there, the Playboy Mansion. Hopefully, if he misses, that's where you want to go. Peep over the fence.
Playboy Mansion does border the LA.
See my balls anywhere?
Club.
Anybody see my balls anywhere? So
there's a couple good stories that I heard from guys when I lived in LA about that, but never mind. That's for the X-rated podcast.
Yeah, I've watched some Playboy documentaries on that. If I get reincarnated, I want to come back as pool water and live at Hef's mansion.
That's pretty solid, yeah.
Pool water. I'm going to take the
water,
one,
my friend.
I'm going to take the one that you wouldn't take. I'm going to take this Michael Brennan guy. I like this Michael Brennan guy. Who do you like?
I'm just going to do this.
Okay. What does that mean?
That is.
Is that
what does that look like? That is not the shocker. That is the Sun Devil fork. We are going with Preston Summerhays, my friend. Let's go, Preston. Let's go, Devils. Let's go, Sparky.
Okay, so we got our bets.
We do. Do you not want a bet that you have Brian Harman?
That's like tier 3.
Oh, well, let's do a tier 3. Let's go dark horse.
You're trying to get me close. If you sweep, you're trying to get me one bet away from having to Venmo you, and I'm not going to do that. 3 is the limit, mister. Because we got a great tournament, another elevated event coming up next week at Travelers, where I have a feeling my guy's going to play pretty good. So,
all right. Did you see the Brooks Koepka press conference today where he ended it with, I'll see you guys at the Travelers next week?
That was a joke.
He's fucking, well, he's, yeah.
And now all the live tweeters are saying that with Valderrama coming up in 2 weeks, that John Rahm's going to live and everything like that. So there's a
that would be a bad move on John Rahm's behalf at this point. Because now we're going to get into it, folks. Yeah. We're going to get into the merger or the partnership or whatever the hell you want to call it, because this thing is an absolute mess. But Bobby, after a week, and it's been exhausting. I'll tell you what, I have read every article you possibly could read. I have seen it from every side possible. I've even been literally watching the feed of the live golf enthusiast. That's how bad this has gotten, to where I'm so obsessed that I even stoop to that level to understand both sides too. I want to hear what is going on in the international golf media, what's going on in US golf media. I've got every notification set up within my Apple news feed for not only the US golf, but now I've got Australia, I've got the Asian tour, I've got the UK. I've literally got everything set up now to where I'm reading all these different articles. And the one thing that has really stood out to me with the latest information is actually the article that you sent me from SI.com, which was by Michael Rosenberg. And he interviewed Jimmy Dunn, and I think there was a lot of clarity there, but it could also be some posturing being done by Jimmy Dunn, by the tour, to where it's like, hey, Yasir, I know we agreed to this framework, but I just want you to know what's actually going to take place so that they get ahead of it a little bit, because right now it's still very early on within building out all the details to this and everything. And how they left it from that interview and everything is that this is going to be Jay Monahan's decision at the end of the year. The question that I have for you is, do you really believe that Yasir is going to turn his back on all these live golfers just so that he can have his piece of the golf pie, so to speak?
I mean, I can't really can't really give an answer. I just don't have answers for any of these questions. I feel like one of the tour pros out there, I just don't have any answers. Yeah, I could see it. I could see it just finishing this year and then.
But what about these guys with 3-year contracts and stuff? Are they going to honor those?
Well, I mean, that's just, who knows? I mean, who knows? Who knows what the deal is? Are they going to honor those contracts? Are those guys going to, are the guys that going to want to come back? There's been talk about, I think Jimmy had some clarification about things that you probably want to talk about in a few minutes about possible equity into the new, do I call it a corporation, or into the new group, whatever it is. And depending on, how verbal or nonverbal, or whether you recruited players to go to live, is going to depend on your there's obviously going to be some kind of a downtime, a suspension time. And I hear there's going to be massive fines. I was it the Sports Illustrated article?
It was,
that said something like that, like Phil signed for X amount of dollars and he's been paid on 2 years, but you get one lump sum, and then he was going to get 33 million or whatever the next 2 years, and maybe getting fined that. And so I don't really have a clue what's going on, but I will say this: whatever happens, I'm all for it. But my big thing is where I'm at now is I don't want to say, I'm not like John Rahm where I just don't care. I don't want to hear about it anymore. But I'm going to say this: can everybody just go play golf and just zip it? You know what I mean? And I'm talking about
the media is not going to allow that to happen.
No, well, of course not.
This is a goddamn gold mine for most of these big media companies.
Our social media, is it me, or is our social media, when it comes to golf, and these Barstool guys, Dan Rappaport, or this guy or that guy, are they just way more out of control than social media people? It's the same thing happened in football and basketball and hockey. I feel like golf's at another level for gossip and juice and theories and that kind of stuff,
Well, this is a very unprecedented time. I don't think we've ever seen this with any other major sport in America. So while I'm with you, I think like the Barstool guys, and granted, foot and mouth here because I would love to do business with Barstool at some point. But that being said, I don't love what Dan Rappaport puts out there. I don't love
kind of a
what
douche.
the Foreplay Pod really puts out there in terms of content, because it's not coming from a real golf background. None of those guys have a golf background. None of those guys know what it is to actually be a good professional golfer.
You
Like
put no lay-
they
you put-
have Barstool behind them, and that's why they're a decent size podcast and so forth.
You put no laying up in that category, you know, a bunch of single digit handicaps that go around and travel and have ideas about everything.
You know, those guys I give a little bit more respect to because they're actually single digits. Like, I guess what's his face from Foreplay is a single digit, but I've seen him swing. I've seen his putting stroke, and I'm just like, there's no effing chance. I'm sorry. I used to get into arguments with Mikey Perez about this because he knows him, and I'm just like, dude, there's no chance that guy is a single digit handicap.
Right.
But with the no laying up guys, I see it a little bit differently. You know, cart barn guys with Kyle, I think, and Butsy, those guys can play some golf. Those guys, like, for instance, Kyle Mays, it's actually, I think that's his name. I'll have to double check that. Who is the Cart Barn guys? I've seen him play in Troon events and so forth, and this kid can literally play. Like, he's played in mini tour events nonstop. But that being said, out of all of the golf podcasts that are out there, there's not many that really have that deep level of understanding that it actually is giving the audience information that is not just mainstream media press. Like, we try not to stick around with the mainstream media storylines and everything. We try to shoot it to you guys as straight as humanly possible. Me, myself, from a mini tour standpoint of playing professional golf, putting yourself in that mindset. No, I did not succeed in it. So I have mad respect for everybody who does it on a week in or week out basis. But Bobby's there inside of the rope, seeing these guys all the time, as caddy for the top elite player in the game, Dustin Johnson. And then you see everybody that you've caddied for since, and how people speak about you, especially players that you have caddied for. So you look at this and it's like, man, when we break this stuff down, we're trying to give you the best opinion possible from every aspect. And I don't think a lot of these guys can do that. I just don't think that they have the experience behind them to do that. And for me as a business person, and having started multiple companies, exited companies, and then also been able to fail in companies too, that it is something to where I look at the business side to it, and I'm going, originally I was like, okay, Yasir's the chairman. And on top of that, they have first right of refusal on any sponsorships coming into the PGA Tour. So what does that mean, folks? What does that mean, that they have the first right of refusal? Well, that means if they want to decline everybody that wants to invest money into the PGA Tour, they can. So that means that they're going to have the majority say, even if the PGA Tour has 3 spots on the board, to where they're going to be making the bulk of the decision. So yes, Yasir might be playing it nice right now, but these guys are business guys. And that's the one thing that sits in the back of my mind is, okay, does Yasir want to be hated by every single guy that's signed with LIV Golf? That's the question to me. I don't know if you...
You know what's interesting to me is that of all these tours coming together or whatever, all the comments are coming from our side, are coming from the PGA Tour. I feel like Yasir is just sitting in the background, not saying anything. He's taking notes, right? He's probably taking mental notes because, the stuff that Jimmy Dunn's saying, or, Jay obviously hasn't said a lot for obvious reasons, but I just feel like we're the ones that are, saying all the stuff, and Yasir is probably just sitting back, is my theory, and taking all these notes and that kind of stuff.
What's the best place to be in a negotiation? It's being the listener. Okay. So being the listener, you get to gather all this information, and then what they are doing right now. And I know Jimmy Dunn has been very successful in his business career. So that's one that I'm like, okay, I can kind of see what Jimmy Dunn is doing right now, to where he's laying out the foundation of all of this. So yes, they have the framework, but all the details are gray at best. to what's going to actually take place, what's going to happen. I know in their initial discussions that LIV is going to fall under the decision making of Jay Monahan. So yeah, Greg Norman's not going to be a part of that, but Yasir also told Greg Norman he's going to be a part of it, according to multiple articles. So I'm like,
a couple things. I saw DJ's interview where they asked him, about LIV, and I know DJ's body language when he's trying to answer a question. I don't want to say honestly, or if he's just trying to brush it to the side, but they asked him, do you think LIV's going forward in 2024? And he's like, yeah, they're making a schedule, everything's a go, and that kind of stuff. And then one guy asked him, I don't know who it was, he goes, oh, so Yasir told you that? And he kind of I know his body language. He's kind of like, yeah. And I'm like, me personally, I have a hard time believing that, just because I know Dustin's body language probably as good as anybody. And that was probably the most appropriate thing to say at the time. Dustin's not a big talker, and honestly, let's say LIV does go bye-bye. I mean, among his peers, Dustin would be welcome back here, but the fact is his penalty, because he took the high road, and as Brooks took the high road, and as I would say Cam Smith took the high road, and then you go to the low road, right? And I feel like Sergio took the low road. You remember when we played the Wells Fargo at Avenel last year, when Max Homa won, and Sergio had that meltdown in that hazard over there, and he's like,
oh yeah, can't wait till I'm done with this tour.
2 more weeks, I'm off this tour. So he's at the low. Obviously, Perez is way at the low part of the totem pole. So we've talked about how I've uncovered the fact that Perez was not paid X amount of dollars up front. But when it comes to these fines and that kind of stuff, you're not going to see a guy like Pat Perez. Let's say that they say, okay, you can't play for a year, and you're gonna get fined $2 or $3 million. What do you think Pat Perez says to that? No, he's not cutting. He's not cutting with the spending habits over there. I'm just saying he's not cutting $2 or $3 million. Phil Mickelson to come back, who would have the stiffest fines of anybody, or the stiffest suspension, right? Do you think Phil Mickelson really has $800 million left, where he would say, okay, I'll pay the $33 to $66 million fine to come back and not receive the so-called equity that's going to happen with the new group? And
zero chance.
Zero chance. So I'm excited for this player meet. I was telling Matt, this big player meeting that I thought would happen at Hartford, as it does every year, is actually pushed back a week to Detroit, which doesn't get the greatest field. So I wonder if we're going to have a Delaware situation, Matt, where Tiger and some of the guys that aren't playing, these bigger guys, are going to fly in for this meeting to find out, what the scoop is. I want to touch on another topic that has been, I don't want to say it's been bothering me, but it makes me very curious. So let's go back to that player meeting last week, right? Where, people are Grayson Murray. Everybody knows I love Grayson Murray to death, right? But his little thing, he's up there, big time guy, just went on the Corn Ferry Tour, whoopie doodle, just finished third in Raleigh and botched a 4-shot
lead. He's in the top 10 on the Corn Ferry Tour money list right now.
Well, he is number 8. He's mathematically locked, and he's throwing Bible verses out there now and everything like that. So great for him. He's got his shit together. But the fact is a guy like Grayson Murray does not need to be popping off, calling for Jay's resignation. And I think a lot of guys got caught off guard. That's stating the obvious. But I was starting to think about this, and I'm like, all these guys that are complaining, like I saw Chesson Hadley's interview where they're like, do you feel like...
Oh, God, that one was a bad one.
Do you feel like you need to be compensated? And he goes, oh, I'd like to be compensated for being loyal. And the first thing that came to my mind is, if you're an average tour player out there, with the purses and everything like that, you're making $2 or $2.5 million a year, plus on the side, right? You're probably making anywhere from $3 to $4 million a year. Pretty good living, right?
But for a niche sport too.
For a niche sport, and I don't understand why these guys feel like the PGA Tour should owe them some compensation. And what's does make sense, but doesn't make sense to me, Matt, so to speak, is they always cry about the rich get richer on the PGA Tour. Well, who the fuck makes more money in Major League Baseball or NFL or hockey? The better player.
Guys, yeah.
The guys who sell tickets, the better players, their contracts are way bigger than everybody else. And that just gets back to my point where I just wish everybody, and I'm just a caddy, I've said it a million times, but everybody just needs to shut up, let the cards fall where they fall, and go play the best golf that you can play. All these guys that are complaining live nice lifestyles, they have great cars, they have great families, they have nice houses. They basically have everything that they can want, right? But if you're not Rory McIlroy, you're not going to get 30 or 40 million dollars. Maybe you're going to get a small piece of the pie, and that's just the big question mark to me, the double question mark. How's everybody going to get compensated? I know we're talking about having an equity stake in the new, I'm just going to call it the group, in the new group, and how they're going to stagger that, I have no idea. But I also think that them not giving the LIV guys that equity is probably going to scare some LIV guys away. And then let's talk about this, Matt. What if LIV does go bye-bye? Then the guys that choose not go to the PGA Tour, where do they go?
That's what I'm wondering. That is the biggest question mark that I have in this entire thing. Okay. Yeah. There's two scenarios that I can see taking place.
Go for it.
Number one is right now, if Yasir went into that meeting and was like, listen, Jay, we'll review LIV Golf and how it's doing and everything at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. He's a smart businessman. He might know that, okay, now floodgates are open because we've made this deal with you. So now all the sponsors are going to start flooding into LIV Golf. So that's going to be an interesting scenario because, all the sponsorships and all the ad revenue and all the money behind it can all of a sudden come flooding into LIV Golf to where, that could end up being a very positive sign towards the end of the year to where Jay can't make a business decision on that to say, okay, they're not making money or they're not trending in the upward direction. Yasir is playing chess here. He's not playing checkers when it comes to this entire thing. So if he's given the ability for Jay at the end of the year to make a business decision on whether or not LIV Golf survives, he might have already conceded that, okay, we got half the year to bring in all these sponsors because now we're all on the same side. You're not going to start telling all these sponsors not to do business with us now. We're going to start bringing in sponsors and everything. That's number one. Number two is if it does get to the end of the year and LIV Golf is still on very much so this loss and is not seeing expectations and so forth, then Yasir's got some explaining to do to these guys that he brought in to LIV Golf and telling Greg Norman he's still going to be a part of it. So there is a ton of unknowns right now, and I can see it going either one of those two ways, where I do believe Jimmy Dunn, when he says that this is part of the agreement, I can see Yasir saying, we'll evaluate it at the end of the year. He's not saying in that it's going away. He's basically just acknowledging that, hey, Jay, you're going to have the decision just so that they get to this point. But he's got the ultimate checkmate where it's if I don't allow any sponsorship money to come in to the PGA Tour, you're going to have to do everything I tell you to do.
Yeah, exactly. A quick random change. Do you ever listen to Claude? I don't like him, but do you ever listen to Claude Harmon's podcasts, his podcast?
I've listened to it once with the Pat Perez interview. Okay, that was it.
Pat Perez, of course you did. So he did an emergency podcast like everybody else did.
Oh my God. Emergency. Hit the sirens. Where's the Pat phone?
He did this 30 or 40 minute emergency podcast, and you really got to listen. You really got to listen.
Oh, do I have to listen to that?
Well, he's going to tell you that he's actually boys with the Yasir, and he's known him for a long time.
Oh,
and
boy.
He personally went to Jay. This is a coach talking, Claude Harmon. He personally went to Jay and said, hey, Yasir wants to get involved. And Jay's like, I don't know if we want any part of that. Like he was the big guy that tried to bring it in. But he brought up this thing where he said he's hearing rumors that players and players' parents that if I heard it right, that didn't take a LIV contract are thinking about seeking litigation, financial litigation, which brings me to this point. Where is the Wikipedia, or where is the documented list of guys that got offers and guys that didn't get offers?
So I was thinking about this because when I heard, what's his name? Hadley, Chesson.
I love Chesson. He's
okay.
Great,
so it's Chesson. So Chesson Hadley, when he said, I want to be compensated for what I was offered. Well, number one,
he was never offered anything.
Well, that's the thing. Now you're going to look like an idiot, because when all of a sudden the PGA Tour goes, okay, we need to give equity to these guys that were all offered contracts that turned them down. Okay, yes, here, go ahead and give us everybody that was offered an official contract.
Yeah.
And he's not on there. That's going to be pretty embarrassing at that point. That's a foot and mouth moment. And I was sitting there going, this is very easy, because LIV is going to have every single person that they talk to and who they actually made offers to.
Right.
And I think some of the big players that maybe never received an official offer, but we're talking with them. Yeah. I can see how that's going to be the gray area with all of this. That is a gray area.
We were, when this was going down a couple of years ago at Pebble Beach, when Troy had a chance to win Pebble Beach a couple of years ago, we were paired with Keith Mitchell on Saturday or something. We got right off of Tute, we got into the LIV topic and everything like that. And I vaguely remember Keith Mitchell saying his number was $8 to $10 million. Like they were going to throw $8 to $10 million. But those offers, were they documented on paper? Did they get that far? Because that's really the only thing would hold any weight. Or was it just a few phone calls with the agent saying, hey, we're in the neighborhood of 8 to 10, run it by your client. And if it didn't go any further, it didn't go any further. So my hands are up. I don't even know. I don't even know.
You know what the smartest thing, though, was that I heard early on before it came out that they're going to give these guys equity into this new business?
Yeah.
Was just include the PGA Tour guys that stayed in the PIP.
Yeah, that's
deal. All you have to do.
Yeah.
No, they're talking about giving equity in this new business, which doesn't make any sense to me. Well, I'm sitting there going, there's better ways of going about this.
I hate to quote Jeff Ogilvy, but that's way above my pay grade, right? That's way above my pay grade. So, I unfortunately, everybody, we couldn't answer a lot of questions because we know as much as everybody else does. And like some big time players have said, there might be 4 guys that really know what's going on. But I think here in 2.5 weeks at Detroit, we're going to have some clarity and we're going to have a hell of a show. Obviously we're going to have a hell of a show next week after this US Open, and with Travelers backing it up with a designated $20 million event. And now we're getting down into crunch time on the PGA Tour to try and crack that top 50 number and, get to Atlanta. So that's all I got.
Did you ever see the play Hamilton?
No, I didn't.
First of all, iconic play. And if you ever get to see it on Broadway, absolutely do it. Also, I saw the one that when they went traveling and they were in LA, I saw them in LA as well. But, no one was in the room when it happened. And that is a skit from Hamilton to where it's like, the only people that know what those conversations were the people in the room when it happened. So,
you know what this reminds me of a little bit? Succession.
Oh, good show too.
A Succession twist where, we're going to do this. And then one person's behind a door and I'm not going to really do that. Or Shiv's here or whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like it's got like some of those meetings might have a little Succession to them. I don't know.
I love that because I sit here and I've gone through every scenario in my brain. It's the way my brain works, where I'm going through every possible scenario and I'm sitting there going, and so many times my brain come right back to the fact that Yasir is sitting in the chairman's chair with the money behind him. And guess who's going to have to obey to that? Everybody on that freaking board, including Jay Monahan. And so for me, there's a reason why Yasir's not fucking talking right now. There's a reason why he's not sitting there going, this is you know what? We talked about that. That's exactly how it's going to go. I'm going to give Jay there has been none of that. It's been all from Jimmy Dunn and the PGA Tour side.
And I think a little bit that has to do where there might be this sneaky behind the doors agreement that we don't want to, we don't want to take away from the U.S. Open this year, right? So we don't want to talk about that. They were very strict in player interviews. They told all the media, there's going to be no questions. And if you watch
they still did ask
Yeah, they
questions.
still did, but I heard the young lady shut a lot of them down. I shot a lot of them down. Matt Fitzpatrick's such a nice guy. He's going to answer questions and that kind of stuff. But it's funny how when they go in with those rules and that kind of stuff, where one guy asks a question and Matt Fitzpatrick gives his honest answer, and then 5 other guys just start bombarding and everything.
Well, they look for that opening. If you say one word wrong, they're jumping all over it.
Yeah. So that's it,
Bobby. That's all we got.
Man.
That's all we got for right now,
buddy.
folks. Stay tuned. Emergency pod coming soon.
Hopefully we'll have a nice show next week and we'll get a rundown, and hopefully we get some information, a little bit, some more leaks come through Hartford, and I'll keep you posted on that.
I appreciate it, Bobby. You have a great week. Enjoy watching the U.S. Open. I'll be doing the same.
Yeah. Take care, buddy. Enjoy your trip to Cali.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe and go to www.pullhookgolf.com for more information.